What if the heavy, sinking feeling in your stomach right now, that tight knot of anxiety you carry around in your chest every single day, isn't there because you are failing? What if it is there because you are trying entirely too hard to succeed at a game you were never meant to play? What if the relentless, obsessive pursuit of your best self is the exact thing tearing your psyche apart? Look at your life right now. You wake up exhausted, you stare at the ceiling, and before your feet even touch the cold floor, a massive, suffocating checklist of optimizations floods your mind. You have to meditate. You have to drink water with lemon. You have to read 10 pages of a nonfiction book. You have to exercise, build a side hustle, be present, be mindful, be constantly, relentlessly better. It is exhausting. Think about the sheer violence of that word. Better, it implies that who you are right now, sitting there, staring at a screen, breathing, simply existing, is profoundly inadequate. Society has convinced you that you are a flawed piece of software, in desperate need of a patch, a broken machine that needs constant tweaking, upgrading, and monitoring. But what if modern self-improvement is actually a severe form of self-hatred disguised as growth? We live in an era of terrifying hyper-optimization. We track our sleep cycles with rings on our fingers. We measure our macros. We listen to podcasts at 2 times speed so we can absorb more data, more hacks, more rigid rules for living. We are sold a very specific narrative. We are told that if we just find the right morning routine, the perfect combination of habits, the ultimate productivity system, we will unlock a state of permanent bliss and godlike efficiency. It is a lie. A beautiful, seductive, highly profitable lie. When you buy into the idea of the optimized self, you declare a brutal psychological war on your own humanity. You split yourself violently into 2 pieces. There is the manager, the harsh, unsympathetic dictator inside your head who holds the stopwatch, the calendar, and the habit tracker. And then there is the employee, the exhausted, messy, biological creature who just wants to rest. The manager hates the employee. The manager punishes the employee for feeling sad, for wanting to sleep in, for craving a moment of absolute, unproductive stillness. This dynamic is not personal growth. This is domestic abuse occurring entirely inside your own mind. You are the abuser, and you are the victim. And the sickest part is that society applauds this. We call it discipline. We call it the grind. We build statues to people who have managed to completely suppress their organic human nature in favor of a robotic, sterile perfection. But look closely at those people. Look at the tight jaws. Look at the dead, frantic energy in their eyes. They are terrified. They are absolutely terrified that if they stop pedaling the bicycle of self-improvement for 1 single second, they will collapse into the abyss of their own averageness. Let us view this tragedy through the lens of depth psychology. Carl Jung warned us about this exact phenomenon. He taught us about the shadow. The shadow is the dark, heavy bag we drag behind us, filled with all the parts of ourselves that we deem unacceptable, ugly, or unproductive. Here is the terrifying truth about modern self-improvement. Every time you force a shiny, productive virtue into your outward personality, your persona, you simultaneously force its exact opposite down into your shadow. The human psyche demands balance. It demands equilibrium. When you rigidly enforce a waking time of 5 a.m. every day, you create a rebellious, exhausted shadow entity that desperately wants to sleep until noon. When you enforce a strict, joyless diet, counting every grain of rice, you feed a shadow that wants to consume everything in sight. When you force yourself to be endlessly positive, grateful, and emotionally stoic, you are burying a shadow composed of pure, unadulterated rage and deep, unspoken grief. The harder you try to be a saint of productivity, the more of a demon you create in your own unconscious. This is exactly why you sabotage yourself. This is why you spend 3 weeks waking up early, crushing your goals, ticking off every box on your habit tracker, only to spend the 4th one paralyzed on the couch. You binge-watch garbage. You eat junk food. You ignore your emails. you hate yourself for doing it. You think it is a failure of willpower. It failed, but not for the reasons you think. It is not a lack of discipline. It is the shadow taking the wheel. The shadow is starving. It has been locked in the basement by the dictatorial manager, and it will get its biological and psychological needs met, one way or another. The binge, the procrastination, the collapsethis is the shadow's revenge against the tyranny of your ideals. You are fighting a war against the most powerful, ancient part of your own psyche. You will lose every single time. Jung said that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Your failure to maintain the perfect routine is not a character flaw. It is a desperate, violent cry for wholeness from your own soul. Now, contrast this violent Western obsession with hacking and optimization with the ancient wisdom of Taoism. Over 2,000 years ago, the philosopher Zhuang told a story that perfectly captures the sickness of our modern ambition. An old carpenter is walking through a vast forest with his apprentices. They come across a massive, ancient, magnificent oak tree. It is sprawling, gigantic, with a canopy that blocks out the sun. The apprentices marvel at it. They ask the master carpenter why he does not cut it down to make ships, or doors, or fine tables. The carpenter waves his hand and dismisses it. He says, "That tree is completely useless. The wood is too twisted to make straight planks. It is too porous for a sturdy door. If you made a ship from it, it would sink immediately. Because it is utterly useless, there is no point in cutting it down." That night, the ancient tree appears to the carpenter in a dream. The tree speaks. It says, "You call me useless, but look at the fruit trees in your orchards. The apple tree, the pear tree. As soon as their fruit is ripe, they are stripped, beaten, and abused by people taking their fruit. Their branches are broken. Their utility is the exact thing that causes their immense suffering and their early death. I have spent my entire life trying to be useless, and because I am useless to you, because you cannot consume me, I have survived for centuries. My uselessness is my greatest utility." Think deeply about the profound truth hidden in that story. We are the fruit trees. We are constantly, frantically trying to produce fruit. We try to show our value to the world, to our bosses, to our parents, to our followers, to the algorithms. We want to be useful. We want to be optimized. And because of this, we are being stripped bare. We are exhausted, broken, hollowed out by our own desperate need to be productive. What if you allowed yourself to be the useless oak tree? What if you stopped trying to be so easily consumed by a world that will never be satisfied with what you give it? There is an immense, untouchable power in reclaiming your right to be of no use to anyone for a little while. Taoism teaches the art of Wu-Wei, effortless action. True growth does not come from force. It does not come from rigidly imposing your intellectual will upon your physical body. It comes from alignment. Think of a river. A river does not wake up and try to be a better river. It does not read books on how to flow faster. It does not berate itself for hitting a rock. It simply flows along the path of least resistance. It yields, it bends, it adapts. And yet, over time, it effortlessly carves massive canyons out of solid stone. You are trying to use dynamite to move a mountain, when you need to be the quiet water that patiently wears it down. You are trying to force your entire life into a sterile spreadsheet. But your life is deeply organic. It has seasons. There is a season for aggressive outward growth, yes, but there is also a season for quiet, ugly decay. A season for shedding leaves. A season for standing bare and cold in the winter of your own mind. We have entirely forgotten how to winter. We demand eternal summer, eternal productivity, eternal blooming. But a tree that refuses to drop its dead leaves will not survive the frost. Your exhaustion, your chronic procrastination, your profound lack of motivation right now, these are not bugs in your programming. They are core features of your humanity. They are your mind and body demanding a winter, demanding a period of profound stillness where absolutely nothing is expected of you. So, how do we escape this brutal cycle? How do we step off the treadmill of endless optimization? You must do something incredibly radical. Something that will feel dangerous, perhaps even terrifying at first. You must practice the radical, unflinching acceptance of your own mediocrity. You must lay down your weapons. The war against yourself is over. Fire the dictatorial manager inside your head. Throw away the stopwatch. Delete the habit tracker. Allow yourself to be shockingly, profoundly average for a while. Stop treating your free time as just another opportunity for growth. Let your free time be completely, beautifully useless. Stare at a blank wall. Watch a terrible movie without trying to extract a philosophical lesson from it. Take a long walk without an educational podcast playing in your ears. Experience the raw, unedited, terrifying silence of your own existence. When the anxiety rises, and it will rise, when the panicked voice in your head screams that you are falling behind, that you are wasting your potential, that everyone else is passing you by, let it scream. Observe it. Do not fight it. Realize that this voice is not you. It is just an echo of a sick society that values machines over humans. Your worth is not determined by your daily output. Your worth is inherent. It is fixed. It is totally unchangeable. You are not a project. You are not a startup. You do not have investors. You are a fragile, beautiful biological organism experiencing the absolute, incomprehensible miracle of consciousness for a brief, fleeting moment in time. You do not need to be better. You just need to be whole. And wholeness includes the dark. It includes the slow, the messy, the tired, and the useless. True individuation is not the pursuit of perfection. It is the courageous acceptance of completeness. You must welcome the shadow back into the house. Pull out a chair and sit at the table with your exhaustion. Have a quiet cup of tea with your laziness. They are not your enemies. They are the battered, exhausted parts of you that have been carrying the massive weight of your impossible expectations. Forgive them. Forgive yourself. Let the heavy, suffocating illusion of the perfect self finally shatter onto the floor. And in the quiet ruins of that shattered ideal, you will finally find the freedom to actually live. If you made it to the end, comment "The useless tree survives," and I will personally reply to you. And if this resonated with you, subscribe to be part of this and leave a like if you enjoyed it.